bring you the images from the NATO summit taking place in The Hague in the Netherlands. The gathering of leaders, of course, very important in terms of what happens next for the alliance and all the issues that it is facing. Mark Rutte says he has no doubt that the US is committed to Article 5 of the NATO Charter. That, of course, is the famous clause that means an attack on one member state is an attack on all. It's been invoked only once, of course, when the United States was attacked by terrorists on September 11th, 2001. US President Trump arriving this evening from Washington in time for the traditional family photo, which will be taking place very shortly, featuring all the leaders. Rutte, who is NATO's Secretary General and once he was the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, has sent Trump a message congratulating him on his decisive action this weekend in sending US stealth bombers to attack those three key nuclear sites in Iran. The big issue facing NATO members in this summit is approval of a 5% spend per GDP on defense from each of the 32 countries that make up the pact. Ukraine's president at war, Volodymyr Zelensky, appeared in person to appeal for financial help. He said Ukraine can produce 800 million drones a year, but it needs funding help. Well, that 5% defense spend is an issue because of Trump. In fact, it's one of his successes since returning to power in January. He had this to say about Spain looking to pay out less.
That you didn't think the U.S. should have to agree to the 5% increase in GDP on defense.
No.
Do you want to?
I was the one that said that's what they should be paying, as you know. No, I should do something. And they're having a problem with Spain. There's always a problem with Spain. Because Spain's not agreeing, which is very unfair to the rest of them, frankly.
Donald Trump on his aircraft. Let's bring in, via our normal link-ups, from Madrid, Sarah Morris, our correspondent there. Sarah, good evening to you. Did Sanchez, the Prime Minister, do this because he knows his fragile left-wing government won't back extra defence spending?
Well, it's certainly true that he's got left-wing votes and left-wing partners even in his government who have said that they don't even believe in NATO. And so he knows that going to Parliament will be very difficult, particularly because he is being dogged by these corruption scandals. He's also been effectively struggling to pass a budget for the last year and a half. So it may well be that he thought, how do I manage my coalition government? How do I keep people on side? Can I ensure that I don't have to have the big political fight back home of upping the spending to 5%? And he's been really saying that the deal is done, that tomorrow there'll be a joint statement out from those 32 NATO allies, and they will say that allies commit to 5% and not we. And that will be the flexibility, says the government, to allow Spain to meet its capability targets, to meet its commitments to NATO, but without committing to that 5%. But you heard Donald Trump there saying Spain is still a problem. The Spanish government is trying to say that this is already a done deal, that the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, has given commitments in writing, and that that will be the final deal that is signed. But they're obviously insisting they don't want to have a big spat with the United States on this. And they're pointing out that that flexibility would actually help other partners, that if other partners like Belgium, Slovakia have also said that they can't spend that kind of part of their budgets on defence, that will help them too. It will give unity to tomorrow's statement. And they've even said, well, look, given that Donald Trump has signalled that he doesn't want to spend 5% as a NATO ally, that the United States could also be sheltered by that broad, flexible statement.
That is a very interesting idea, Sarah. Coming back to Spain, strictly speaking, inside the government, of course, elements of chicanery, allegations of corruption. Could this NATO deal be, in some ways, a convenient distraction from what's going on?
That is exactly what the opposition parties say. The People's Party basically saying that there needs to be an election, that Pedro Sanchez, the socialist prime minister, needs to go, and that these scandals are affecting his close circle, and that they will only continue to grow. Really, the big news was when the second number 3 in the Socialist Party had to step down last week. And finally, the top leader, Sanchez, stopped standing up for him and saying that he had committed no wrongdoing. He's now out of the party, Santos Cerdán. And on Monday, he'll be questioned over whether he took backhanders on public deals. Today, Santos Cerdán's lawyer made a very unusual move. He said he wanted Monday's questioning, which is normally a closed door. He wants that to be televised so that there can be full transparency. He says he committed no wrongdoing, but Sanchez is being dogged by many of these corruption investigations. He says he knew nothing about any wrongdoing, and that the Socialist Party is a party that throws people out who are accused of corruption, and that they will basically clean up any aspects of the party. But that hasn't stopped veteran socialists who have been in former socialist governments putting out a statement recently saying that they want Pedro Sanchez to resign. They say they need to restore the good name of the party.
Sarah, I'm wondering what people around you, the people that you socialise with, that you sort of pass on a day-to-day basis, ordinary Spanish folk, how do they feel about defence spending? Because clearly it might be something that, given where Spain is geographically on the map, distanced from the problems in the east of Europe, do they feel that they're separate from it, or don't they want to protect Ukraine and the EU from any kind of Russian threat?
Mark, they are very supportive of Ukraine and Ukrainians, and Pedro Sanchez has been one of the most outspoken supporters of Volodymyr Zelensky, and he has made commitments to him and given him the arms and the weapons, even if it meant essentially not listening to some of his left-wing allies. However, I think that Spaniards do feel that threat from Russia is not on their borders. This is a pacifist country because of its past in many ways, because of that military dictatorship, because of the civil war that preceded it. Many Spaniards are reticent to arm to the teeth. They are reticent to give a lot of power to the army. And we've seen that from the fact that Spain was really the laggard in the NATO. It had about 1.28% of spending. It's increased and says it will commit to 2.1% of GDP. But that shows you that even the People's Party on the right of the political spectrum is no more committed to big defence commitments than the socialists and the left wing.
Sarah Morris, as always, thank you very much indeed for giving us that insight from Madrid. Spain looking to pay less than the 5% that Donald Trump has stipulated should be paid. And of course, that made a massive splash in the NATO pool when Trump threw that brick into the water and saw that figure of 5% come up floating. Many countries, of course, meeting that already. Spain saying that, well, you know, why should we be paying so much for something that perhaps doesn't touch on us? However, Sarah there pointing out that Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister, and it seems ordinary Spanish people have a real sympathy with the plight of Ukraine, of Ukrainian people, the threat that Russia presents to them, and of course their leader Volodymyr Zelensky and how he has very gallantly led the country since Vladimir Putin led his invasion of Ukraine on the 24th of February, back in 2022.